Well, I'm going to be talking to a young lady who has had one of the most complex, fascinating, and successful journeys and careers in tennis. And she has won 25 Grand Slam titles, 5 in singles, 13 in doubles, 7 in mixed doubles. She's been ranked number 1 in the world 209 weeks and year-end number 1, 1997, 1999, and 2000. And I'd like to welcome in Martina Hingis. Did I get all those facts straight?
Oh, you're perfect. Jesus Christ, you have great memory. Or you prep yourself really well.
I do. Trust me.
You're
I know.
a pro all the way.
I probably know your career better than mine at this point. But it's really interesting because I've been interviewing former champions and current champions, and we talk about their journey, but I like to talk about your journey is sort of an expedition also. I mean, it's really run the gamut. And your mom, Melanie, was your coach for most, if not all of your career. And I read somewhere where she decided when she was pregnant that she was going to start you playing tennis. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But talk about that relationship with your mom.
Well, she was a player herself. I mean, she was a pro of 9 years. And actually, she always told me the best time of her tennis career was when she had me already, because she had less time to train, but it was more quality time. And she was doing a lot of the things at home and, trying to juggle things around, as you know, when you have the kids. And I mean, she had me very young because she knew that she's not going to make a professional career when she was 22. And always wanted me to have a chance with tennis and have a good life, and I think she did pretty okay. I mean, of course, you always have like 1 or 2 differences. When you're 18, you're a teenager, and you want to go your own. I think we all go through this kind of process, but we learn and grow. And I mean, you were also my mentor at one point, so
I know I
had a couple phone calls. So
yeah.
It's quite interesting, but I think it's a different time today. I mean, I probably wouldn't let Leah out of my sight at this point. It's just too many crazy people out there.
I remember thinking I was frustrated because I was your mentor, but I had nothing to say. You were doing everything perfect. You were like, at that time, you had taken over the tennis world, and you just were like the epitome of what a tennis professional should be. But your mom, it's interesting, my dad coached me and your mom coached you. My dad always had sort of a mantra. His mantra was, don't make errors, don't make unforced errors, and you're giving away free points to your opponent. I mean, that carried through sort of that my whole career. Did your mom, what mantra or what sort of strategy did your mom have?
Very similar. I mean, that was pretty much being a bouncing wall, because we both weren't as physical as maybe Martina in your time later on. And, with me, with the Williams sisters and Lindsay and Mary Pierce and Monica were just all so much stronger. So I had to make, first of all, no errors and try to take the ball early and make them move before they move me. And that wasn't always easy because, I mean, they serve well, they return well. But my thing was also, once the ball was going, it was like we had the rally of 3 or 5 shots. I had to definitely go and win that and take that ball, because I just had to try to make them tired and outwear them. Even if I sometimes lost the first set 6-1, that could happen. When they were in their striking zone, I just had to wait my time and wait for my momentum. And sometimes I was given a chance and sometimes I wasn't. But those are always those fun 50-50 matches, whoever was feeling better and physically on top, and also sometimes more hungry, I would say. Also, that person won that day.
The thing is, I remember back watching you, I think, commentating a match at either Hilton Head or Amelia Island. I remember your mom saying it's very important that Martina is stimulated, and it's very important that she has other things in her life besides tennis. Because you were not a tennis robot machine. I mean, I saw you going horseback riding during tournaments. I know you were skiing, and I know you were skating, and you had to have other interests, and that was a part of that helped your tennis, correct?
For sure, a lot. I mean, especially like going out riding, being in the nature, get away from the no, I wouldn't say even pressure, because when I was young, I didn't really feel the pressure as much as when I was growing older, because second time you go to the Grand Slam and you go back and you've won the previous year, so everyone expects you to win. And yeah, that I think was really a nice balance for me to have my horse and, you know, dig in the dirt sometimes, really. I mean, because from the luxurious life that you had actually on the tour, you were staying 4 or 5 star hotels. I mean, and sometimes when you're number one, you know how it feels, everyone's at your feet and you feel like the queen and the princess of the world, but it's not always like that. And sometimes like going back home and being in the normal world, it was very helpful.
Yeah, it balanced you out probably.
For sure,
really
yeah.
So
get back to the ground.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you've always had your feet on the ground. But continuing your junior career, okay, so when I read about your junior career, to me it was unprecedented, as far as it was brilliant. And you won the French Open Juniors at age 12? Are you kidding me? How did you do that?
No, but I think because I started everything so early, and like I said, it was normal to me to play the under 14s when I was 10, you know, and then every year making another step, playing the under 16, the 18 each year, like to make that extra step and you know, skip the levels sometimes. I mean, it was same. I was playing a lot of the tournaments here national on the weekend, and sometimes it was 5 matches. So I went to the juniors and had only 1 match a day. It was like, wow, we're on holidays. And so physically it wasn't as much of a problem. It was more to keep the mentality and the focus at the 12 years old to, you know, to finish up matches. So sometimes I felt like, okay, the worst time to close out matches was like 6-3, 3-0, for example, or 4-1, just to keep going and close it out, because I feel like at that age, the span of focus is not as, you know, when you're 16 or 18. And I mean, even today, sometimes you see the players are up and down and they can't keep the focus for the full straight sets. So I think that was really important for my mom to focus on that and the concentration. But I think even today, I mean, everything that I put my energy into is about discipline and focus and concentration. So it doesn't matter what you take. I feel the same for you. Even being a mother now, it's you know, doing the right things at the right time or picking the right shot at the right time. And what you were just saying earlier, I think it's so important, the placement. I mean, today the kids, I'm like telling them play to the forehand, play to the backhand, and they do vice versa. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I mean, that's like, even today, I feel like I can place the ball where I want to, more or less. I mean, within like 50 centimeters, it's like 3 feet, it should be there. And I think that's the biggest difference, like what we were playing and taught, to put the ball where you really want it. And it's really difficult to train that.
Well, thank you for putting me in your category, because I'm like 2 to 3 generations older than you. But also,
yeah, but you were number 1, so it's like, and when I watched your matches, it was the same. I mean, I was looking up to you, and you could hit the volley. You had all the shots in your repertoire as well. So I think that's like, today you're asking the kids to do one thing, but sometimes you train it over and over and over again, and you want to do strategy, and all of a sudden everything falls apart. So you also train one thing, and you have to be able to put it when it counts. So
you win the French Open Juniors at 12, then at 13 the next year you win the French again, and you win Wimbledon. And you know, I think the one intangible that you didn't talk about is confidence, because at 12 years old and 13 years old, you're beating 17 and 18-year-old, the top juniors in the world. Did you just go out there feeling like this is no problem?
Depends. I mean, maybe the first, second round, I felt, because I was playing like previous tournaments, whether it was in Italy or France. So I felt like I was quite there. I didn't know, like going into the French Open, if I could go all the way, but I made semifinals, or I won a tournament in Italy, and I was like, okay, maybe there were 2-3 players that were able to beat me, but you don't have to play all of them all the time. So you have the top seeds. I mean, although I won those 2 tournaments, I didn't end up as the number 1. So because they played a lot more tournaments, they went on and play. I only played like 7 or 8 tournaments in my junior time when I played the French and Wimbledon. And the second year I finally made it because I also went abroad and I played the US Open because the first year I didn't even go because we felt like it's too far away and it's too much money, it's too expensive. So the second time in '94 we went out there because my mom was telling me, I remember, we have to go see the States because next year you'll be playing in the real US Open. So can you imagine, like, the thinking was always forward and, you know, like not being stopped. And so that confidence just came along that, like, there were no doubts about it that I would make it or not.
Yeah, because when I think of you as a junior player and all through your career, I think of the word confidence. I mean, I just think that really uninhibited confidence that you just felt that you could beat anybody. And I think that really helped you in your career. So you turned pro, you played Zurich, I think that was your first professional tournament, and you actually ended up number 87 in the world that year, which was unbelievable. And then at 15, you won your first WTA title, and that was in Filderstadt. And you also, at 15, had a win over Steffi Graf, who was co-ranked number 1 in the world. So, I mean, at that stage, you had to be, and we'll talk about the next year, but at that stage when you're 14 and 15, how did you feel that you fit in with the top pros?
I felt like at 15, 16, I had another 10, 15 years of career ahead of me. So I had no fear. That only came a little bit later when I had my second, you know, my comeback, that I was like, I started thinking the first time, oh my God, you know, I'm putting my name on the spot. But that never occurred to me when I was 14, 15, you know, playing at home. And the thing was, we also have like team tennis here, and I played a couple of players who were ranked in the top 30. And you know, I don't know if you remember Meredith McGrath. She was also
American.
She was 25 in the world at that time. I know Americans don't like the red stuff, but I beat her in the team tennis. But well, you were the only one who liked it. I'm talking to the wrong one.
Yeah, I'm a Floridian.
But I felt like that when I was playing Americans on clay at the French Open, they usually didn't like it. Although there were some top juniors who made it, or the Canadian I played in the finals. But I felt like, okay, I cannot lose to an American in the semis or finals when I'm playing on clay. So the longer the match, again, I felt like it's coming my way. But no, it was really, I went out there without any fear. And I said, hey, if I have the level, I can go out there and play. And if not, there is next years to come.
Yeah, well, and then the next year did come at 16 years old. You won 3 out of 4 of the Grand Slam titles. You won the Australian, you won Wimbledon, you won the US Open, and you were the finalist at the French. One more match and you would have had a calendar Grand Slam. I mean, that's
crazy, yeah.
You set so many records. Youngest, that was also the year when you were 16 that you became number 1 in the world in March, and also the youngest to ever win Wimbledon. And I guess my question to you is, did that, I know we're being repetitive, but did that surprise you that you would, it kind of went easily for you in that sense?
Well, I think because I played so well at the end of the year in the indoor tournaments, and I was already number 4 in the world. And then I only lost like a couple times to Steffi at the end. I think it was 1 finals in Philly. And then I came close at the championships at the Madison Square Garden. It was this brutal 5-setter that we played at that time. And and she didn't play the year after at the Australian Open. So I felt like, hey, you know, Steffi's not around. That's the only player I lost to. I've beaten everyone else. Maybe it's my time to shine, yes. And then the only thing I got a little bit scared when I had this winning streak at 36, I think, I was just like, I became number 1. I won my 5th or 6th tournament. And I'm like, I shouldn't get injured. And that's when it happened. Actually, we went hiking, and then I was tired. I went horseback riding. I fell off, and then I had this break of 6 weeks. and I only came back at the French Open. I was still very nervous about playing even. I didn't know, I had no preparation on the clay court tournaments, went in there and made finals. And for me, it was almost like a win, because that semifinals, I played against Monica Seles at that time. It was like 6-4 in the third, and I had like no more energy and like no more to give in the finals. And Eva Maioli like deserved the win. She was the better player that day.
I want to ask you a question about your game, because you didn't blow anybody off the court with power, but you had so much more. You had so many more strengths and great qualities. Some of them intangibles, and I guess I'd like you to sort of analyze the intangibles in your game.
Well, the thing is, like, sometimes playing tennis, even like what I'm trying to teach my kids with my mom, it's like, you gotta be nasty. Like, don't be just a good girl, you know? I think I was trying to see, like, if I hit one shot, what would come back? What's their preference? Where would they play? If I play to the forehand, you know, is 80% of the shots going back cross court or down the line? And I think they were like, if I to do this, what would come back? I'm sure you were thinking ahead when you hit a shot. And with Lindsay, when I played, it was like, or Jennifer Capriati, it was already, sometimes you practice together, and I knew, like, okay, if I hit this shot, it's like, oh my God, maybe I lost the shot only 2 strokes later, but I know I'm in trouble. So, and I think I have only respect to a few players like that, who know the game as well as maybe Lindsay or Jennifer or Monica, you know, like, who were at the top and who read the game so well. And the Williams sisters as well. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not only power, because we knew certain shots, if you were doing this or that, what would come back. And also the preference of the serves and all of this. So all of this, you have to make a decision in a split second, of course, but 80% of the shots is strategy. So you know upfront what will happen if you do certain things.
I think anticipation, you had great anticipation, and I think that was instinctive, but I also think you knew, like you said, you would hit a shot to their forehand and you would 80% of the time know where they were going to hit the shot. But I also think you saw the ball early, and you'd start out early, you know, you'd start running early. But I just think your strengths are, as great a game as you had, and such an all-court game, they were the intangibles also. So I want to continue at 98 and 99. You won 2 more Grand Slam singles titles. 2000, you won 9 tournaments. Didn't win a Grand Slam title, but you won 9 tournaments, and you were ranked number 1. And then 2001, 2002, the injuries started happening, and if I'm right, it was the ankle. You had 2 ankle surgeries.
One was the right and one was the left.
It was the left. So tough things were starting to happen. And how tough was that for you?
Of course, it's tough, but I feel like I always bounce back okay because it only happened at the end of the season. Yeah. So sometimes it happened twice during Filderstadt, when it's just after the US Open and you see so many players get injured at the end of the year. Sometimes I survived it, sometimes I didn't. You know, at the end of the year, I mean, also Filderstadt, I won 4 times. The car was out there.
Did you win 4 Porsches?
Yes, I did.
Oh, I hate you. I played that tournament every fall and I never won it.
So, no, I think it was really awesome to go into the tournament, because for once you didn't see just the check or the money. You saw really the car in front of you every time you stepped on court, and that was just like, wow, you know, I'm gonna get you at the end of the week. But a couple of the times I just had no more gasoline to finish that line of the season. And so sometimes I feel like today the players, they complain about, you know, finishing the season, it's so long, and it's already finished, end of October? They have 2 months. We had like 3 weeks. I mean, our week was still the first week of December. We still were playing the championship. So there is like 6 weeks shorter than what we had. And I don't know, it's just sometimes when it's too much in 1 year. I also played a lot of the doubles most of the time. Sometimes looking back, should I have pulled out of maybe a quarter or semifinals of doubles to have more energy to maybe win one or two of those finals? But at the end of the day, you don't want to, you know, when you're as far as we were maybe 1 year with Anna, you don't want to let down your partner because, you know, sometimes she's there and staying for that. And you just go out there and you do it. You don't even question it. And maybe, who knows, if I had given up one of the doubles, maybe I would have crossed the finish line. And I mean, when you have 4 match points like I did at the you know, Australia Open, it's not that far anymore. I mean, it's one point sometimes is right there, but still so far away.
No, you're right. You're right. It is. And so we're coming to your first retirement in 2003. That was your first retirement. You cited injuries was the reasoning for your retirement. Was it anything else than just injuries? Were you starting to maybe feel a little burned out at that point, or was it strictly because of your injuries?
Well, it's maybe a combination, a little bit of both, because when your body doesn't let you do the things that you are normally able to do and you start losing matches against players that you shouldn't, of course it goes to your brain. It's only normal and typical that it happens. And today, looking back, I also wish maybe I would have come back a little sooner. Instead of 3 years, maybe a year would have been enough, who knows. But maybe I needed that time to be away, because I already had an 8-year, you know, career being in the top 10, and it was very intense and very, very grueling. And on the other hand, you know, like, of course you had those power players like the sisters, they got better. I mean, Lindsay, you could see she lost 20 pounds at that one point, and she became number one. What was it, 2000 or 2001? So, you know, sometimes was just 1 or 2 players who were, when they were playing well, maybe I couldn't beat them, but I did beat them the year before or the year after. So, you know, like every year you had, and then you had Kleisters and Hennen, who also became number ones in 2003 and 4, I believe. But I mean, they were coming up at that time already. So you had a lot of obstacles. I mean, sometimes maybe for me it was to beat 3 or 4 players of that caliber was too much in a tournament. Yeah, that's interesting. And so you had to up your game a little bit, obviously. For sure. I mean, the rackets improved. I mean, I always say since Babolat got on the market, I mean, the game has gotten so much faster. You saw with Kleisters hitting those balls so fast, and the serves of Roddick were amazing, and Rafa, the way he puts the spin on the ball. Maybe today, like, would have been easier again. Who knows? I mean, you have those power players with the rackets today. I feel like I can hit a more powerful ball as well. Yeah, no, for sure. I agree. How do you play today? Like, how is your game today, like with the new rackets? How did you adjust? It's ugly. It's ugly. Come on. You know what? I think I have, like, I'm hitting a Western I have a Western, semi-Western grip, and I think that I'm hitting and people look at me and go, no, you're still sliding into that forehand. So I can't hit a topspin forehand to save my life. But it's interesting when at my academy, when I play against the kids, you know, I still know, I just drop shot them to death and lob, and like I still beat the 10-year-olds. That's all I can say. Oh, good. But can I tell you one thing about this? Yes. Right? Yes. Because I had Andre Agassi was coaching Novak, right? One of those Wimbledon times. And he hasn't seen me in a long time, and I was still playing doubles. And he comes on the court after us, and he's like, what happened to your forehand? Like, and I'm like, well, because I'm holding the racket, like, I could hit a backhand like Berasategui the other way around, you know? Today. Right. And it wasn't extreme, but with the new rackets, I don't know. It just happened that I started playing more and more in this, like Coco Gauff today, or all the, like, so many young players, they have this super Western grip that is crazy. But I mean, sometimes I'm thinking like I could play the forehand and turn around and just hit a backhand again, you know?
Yeah, but I think if you look at your early years versus when you stop playing at the end of your when you were playing doubles, I think you're gonna look at a different technique and a different player altogether. But I want to get to the doubles because you came back, you played one match, and then you announced no further comeback, and then you came back again. But when you came back on the tour to coach, and you did a little stint with Pavlyuchenkova, Lisicki. You were Bencic's mentor, and how was sitting on the sidelines, and how did you enjoy that, the coaching?
I enjoyed it as long as they were working together with me. So it was really a cool journey, like to learn. And with Nastia Pavlyuchenko, I was working with Patrick Muratoglu in the academy,
right?
And that's how we met, and we trained quite often together when she was around, and that's how the relationship even started. And so that was really nice because she won a tournament in Estoril, and I was really happy for her because, when we were training and you see the improvements and actually the strategy and things at the tournament, it all works out and falls into place. So I was very happy and made me proud that like my knowledge I was able to give to another player, and she excelled. And the same was with Belinda Bencic. I mean, she won a couple tournaments when I was around and made finals in St. Petersburg and quarters at the US Open at that time. So I was really happy because my mom was teaching her for like almost 12 years. She was in our tennis school, and so I was on the sidelines, and sometimes, I mean, everybody does a little bit of coaching, right? So now it's allowed once a set. And so I think some of the things, just little tips, one or two hints that I told her during the match, it was helpful, and that made her win some of the junior Grand Slams and later a couple of the tournaments. And it made me proud, that our system is working.
Well, you added strategy to all these young ladies that you coached. Again, that's what they were lacking, and of course Belinda Bencic was known as Little Martina, which she probably didn't like that too much.
She has a similar, she has the same
similarities.
Upbringing, so.
Yeah, similarities.
So she's just stronger and more powerful. So when she actually hits a good ball, I mean, it's more intense for sure. But then, like the hands and everything. I mean, she can hit a little angle. She has awesome topspin volleys. I mean, sometimes I would rather hit an overhead instead of like topspin. But I mean, she worked with the weapons that she had, and she made. Like
but that was your mom. I mean, that was your mom's style of coaching, right? Yeah.
No, for sure. Everything like the technique and all of these shots she gave her on the way, and I was just that little help at the tournaments to give a little bit of direction of the strategy.
Right. So I'm going to go into the second chapter of your illustrious career. And 2013 to 2017, brought you 10 more Grand Slam doubles and mixed doubles titles. And then when you stopped for good, I believe it was in Singapore, you were still co-ranked number one with Leticia. Those 5 to 6 years seem like a blast for you. Am I right? Did you have fun playing the doubles?
Oh, it was like so different because, I used to train at the tournaments twice a day when I was playing singles, and all of a sudden, you go a little bit of shopping, you can sometimes have a glass of wine,
Or
I was
two.
looking forward to like the different tournaments, and then every town it brought like some specialties. So like you had a great restaurant you were looking forward to go, and I mean you were with another player and your partner and the team around, and we only practiced like once a day. That was quite intense because whether with Sania Mirza we had a great year, or like almost 2 seasons. At first, Sabine Lisicki, she brought me out there and made me believe that we won Miami, the doubles. Out of like in the quarterfinals, we played a Spanish duo, and they had like 7 match points. I don't know how we kind of won that match. Otherwise, I would maybe never make that comeback. But after that, I thought, hey, I can win a tournament again. why don't put all the cards on it and try to make it a career again? And thanks to Sabine, I would say like that was the big launch in Miami, winning that tournament to get me back into it. And then we made our first finals with Flavia Pennetta at the US Open, and the journey just kept going from there. And yeah, it was just an amazing time. Like, it's just so much more relaxed because I had nothing to lose anymore. I mean, just go out there, have fun. And sometimes, again, like with Sanya, we had this 40-match winning streak. You go out there and you feel like you can't lose. I mean, how great is that?
Right.
I mean, you know that
Great.
feeling when you just go out there and just keep winning and winning. And
you want to milk it as long as you can. It brought out the more aggressive Martina Hingis. I mean, because the rallies, the points were shorter, you had half a court, you know, you could slam those returns, you were all over the net. And I just wonder, how much did you value the doubles versus the singles? I mean, can you compare the two as far as value in your mind and your heart?
I mean, for me, it was just like those 4 years was just like so much more. I had my friends there. It was easier to juggle everything else. I mean, I was by myself with my friends and with my partner at times, and it was just like not so much pressure. I mean, it was just like going out there, doing your job, and you enjoyed the rest of the day. I mean, how great is that? I mean, that's the best job in the world. That's what it felt like at that time. And the value, of course, I mean, singles Grand Slam has much more value. It's normal to think that, because when I was playing both in my first career, it was normal to play the doubles. I mean, but that was just kind of coming along, and you didn't count those titles as I was counting them when I just did the doubles.
Winding down now, what do you think your legacy is? Because you started out as a teen phenom, and then you ended up in your 30s as a doubles specialist, doubles champion. I mean, looking back, what do you think your legacy will be, or is?
Well, you tell me. I don't know. I think most of my career when I started, people didn't understand why was I winning. Like, they didn't totally understand my game, like, because I was still the time like of Steffi, where she's very athletic and very physical, and then you see the Williams sisters and you see why they're winning. You understand better because you talk about this power all the time, but like, how could this little girl match the power of the big guns? And I think sometimes, actually, even when I played mixed doubles, playing the guys, when they hit the serve, the harder they serve, the easier for me to use the power, and so I don't have to generate. So they didn't ever sometimes get that generating power is almost harder for me than using it. And that helped my game sometimes, unless I was totally outrun or overpowered. That helped my game, actually using it, redirect it. And I think a lot of the people just didn't sometimes understand how I was doing this. And like you said earlier, you know, anticipation was a big part of the game, reading the game, using the angles and the placement. They only got that a little bit later when they were able to compare me to maybe someone like, you know, Kleisters and Henin, who had also a little bit of the game, but she looked more physical. Some players have it with instinct, some is taught, and some is just given. I don't know, like sometimes you just have to play a lot of matches. But what do you think? I think like sometimes the people didn't understand in the beginning, but later on they started to understand me and my game.
You know, it's visually, when you watch a match, people see the power in somebody's game, and that stands out more than anything. And that's why there's so much emphasis on power tennis. But I mean, I think one of your greatest strengths is that you didn't have any weaknesses. I think one of your greatest strengths is you didn't have any weaknesses, and I think you outsmarted your opponent. You were always thinking one shot ahead. And that's why I always say the intangibles all have to go to Martina Hingis. And you weren't the biggest, you weren't the strongest, you didn't hit the hardest, but you still beat everybody. You're number one,
and crazy.
you know
You're
what?
giving me goosebumps now.
No, look,
Thank you.
I loved your game. I wish, you know, I didn't have the volley that you had. I mean, I had other things that, you know, I had the drop shot and I had other things, but you just had you were the epitome of a tennis player. And I read that Roger Federer said, "I've learned so much from Martina Hingis." And I guess if you were to say one thing that he meant, what would he have meant by that?
I think we played Hopman Cup once together, and he learned
when
to
he
be
said it.
professional, because I think he was at his younger age. He was a bit of a wild man, wild boy, not man yet. But I think there he saw how I was structuring things, and everything was done for a reason. And the way we even they said maybe like the first day that we practiced together, how everything was organized, and even dinner. He wanted to go for dinner at 9 o'clock when we had the match at 10 a.m. next morning. And I'm like, we can't do that. You know, we can't go to bed with your belly, you know, like this, and you just can't sleep until maybe 11 or 12. So how can you play a match next morning, you know? And I think these are the little things that maybe during this week or the 10 days we were in Perth, he clicked, and thanks to his coach at that time, and he probably took some peaks out of it, but maybe that's what he meant with that week of training.
I was like, wow, I don't hear Roger saying that about many people, so I would be very complimented if I were you. And you know, you were just the most versatile player ever. But I'm reaching back to this trophy because my last question is going to be, this is the WTA world number one at the end of the year trophy. Have you gotten one of these yet? You're going to get one. They're beautiful, aren't they?
Yes.
I
think I have gotten one from the last year that I finished number one.
3 times, by the way, you were ranked WTA year-end number one. What does that mean to you?
I mean, you're filled with great pride, of course. I mean, and talking about confidence earlier, you're like over the moon, and you feel like, there is no better professional in your sport that has done better throughout the season. And that's like the reward of the whole season, not just like one single tournament, but it's for the whole year. That just makes you even more proud, and it's those unique times that you only want to share with special people as well.
I want to thank you that you seem to have it all now, and I'm so happy for you. And you just seem very happy, and you deserve it. You've had some ups and downs, but you've had a brilliant career. And you know, I have a tennis academy, and I just always tell the young kids at the tennis academy, especially the girls, to watch you and to watch your matches. Because
thank you. That's really,
you know, you just have
to today they don't even know who you are, so
yeah, they know who you are.
Oh, thanks.
But
thanks to you, you make them.
But thank you, Martina, and it's really great to talk to you. And again, you know, I admire you for everything you've done. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thanks to you. You were one of my models, so I was looking up to you. Thanks for talking and inviting me.
You're welcome. Okay. Thank you.